the Art of Decluttering podcast. I'm your host, Amy Revell, and I'm here today with one of my friends, Rebecca Mezzino from Clear Space in Adelaide. Hello, Beck.
Hi.
We haven't ever done a podcast together, but I reckon we've done many hundreds between us.
I think so. How many have you done now?
About 350.
Yeah, so we did 200. So together, our total is well over 500.
Yeah, so we could, if we ever did a business card, we could say over 500 podcast episodes. You know, when they say in business, been in business over 30 years collective, and they're 12 years old and they're just adding up all their ages.
Exactly.
We should totally do that.
We should totally do that. 500 plus episode podcast veterans.
That's right, the bomb. The reason we're talking today, Beck, is you posted a really interesting article a couple of weeks ago about anti-goals. And anti-anything piques my interest because I quite like the thought of,
rebelling against
something. But as I read through it, I was like, oh my goodness, we have to talk about this. And we do need to give a shout out to Arwen, who started these discussions by sending you an article about anti-goals. So it's come all the way around.
Yes. So our, mutual colleague, Arwen, she did send me an article saying, check this out. I think you'll like it. And of course I went, ooh, I do like this. And the rest is history. Then, I then shared a little story about, how I see it, the whole anti-goal thing.
Tell us a little bit about what anti-goals are, because you've not only kind of learnt about them, you've actually practiced it.
I have. I'm not a goals person, and I think a lot of people feel the same. I think this resonates with a lot of people because there's part of, and maybe it's something like that I've got, pathological avoidance. What is it called?
PDA, pathological
demand avoidance.
Avoidance.
So
we got there.
It could be that as being one of the symptoms of my ADHD. I could have that where, as soon as something becomes obligatory or I demand on myself to do something, my brain decides it's absolutely not going to do that, no matter how hard I try. So it could be part of that, or it just could be, just my ADHD-ness in general. But goals really don't really work for me and haven't really worked consistently for me, and I find the pressure too much, and I find that the novelty of them wears off too quickly. I just have never stuck to goals really consistently. I mean, if I look back, I think I've achieved a fair few, but at the same time, that's probably been not through the traditional method of goal setting. It's more been because I just wanted to do them, and so I worked at it consistently until I did it. It wasn't because I just said, this is what I'm doing. It's actually I found a way to enjoy it or something like that. So I think with this method, it flips it on its head and it says okay, instead of achieving this by this time, what is it that you don't want in your life? What is it that you don't want your life to look like? What are the things, the behaviours, the circumstances, the characteristics of your life, the situations that you don't want to have in your life anymore? And then work on eliminating them. And so it's kind of, instead of saying something like, I want to earn $20,000 a month, you would say, I do not like earning less than $20,000 a month. Therefore, I'm going to do, or I'm not going to do these things in order to then achieve that. So it's kind of, it flips it totally on its head. So basically, the basis is, the process is you look at what sucks the energy out of you, what makes you feel bad, what brings you down, all those kinds of things, what costs you time, money, mental energy, that kind of stuff, and then attach a negative statement to each of it. So I don't like this. So let's say earning less than $20,000 a month. Therefore, I'm not going to do jobs that require me to travel without charging for travel, for example. That's probably a really bad example. But, I'm not going to do this thing that prevents me from earning that amount of money. Yeah. So maybe a more relatable goal might be, I'm not going to, I don't like feeling unfit. Therefore, I am not going to sit on the couch straight after dinner every week, every night, every weeknight. So that's how you usually go, I don't like this, therefore I'm not going to do this. And then you can say, well, how are you not going to do it? So you would then say, okay, so I don't like being unfit. I not going to sit on the couch straight after dinner every night. And I'm going to do that by making a rule that I have to walk around the block before I'm allowed to sit on the couch or something like that. And so then you execute your hows after that. And so, I mean, essentially they kind of feel a bit goalish when you start to execute your hows, like because you've got things to do. But what you're doing is you're eliminating negative things and then allowing whatever comes out of that to arrive without it actually being something specific. Like, I'm going to be able to run a 5K. You know, if I tried to do that, you know, it wouldn't be long before I felt like an unfit failure and I would give up. But if I just said, I'm not going to sit on the couch straight after dinner every night, it gives me freedom to then decide, well, what am I going to do instead? Instead of forcing myself to do something that's onerous, all I'm doing is saying I'm just not going to sit down. So I've actually got lots of options. I don't have to force myself to do something unpleasant, and I'm still going to get a positive outcome in some way, even if it just means that I'm not on my phone and my backside, you know, for that hour every night. It opens up, you know, opportunities to do other things.
I really love this, Beck. I think it was the first episode of the year, I did an episode on the podcast that was like, I'm not a goal setter, but how do you achieve goals without being a goal setter? And it's a similar vein, but instead of saying, I'm going to go for a 1 hour walk, it's every day I have to walk at least to the letterbox. And so by the time you've put on your shoes and maybe, you know, you've put on your sunscreen and you've got to the letterbox, you've got, gosh, I might as well. I've got this far. I might as well go for a quick walk.
Do a bit more.
But it lowers the bar to the point where it's almost impossible to fail, because if you're really sensitive to failure, which, you know, you've mentioned you've got ADHD, and a lot of us with ADHD are really sensitive to failure. In fact, I would argue that a lot of humans are sensitive to failure.
True.
And so how do we actually reduce the bar so that we're smashing goals? Yes, I just walked to the letterbox, but I did it it's what you do regularly that determines your outcomes rather than some aloof goal.
Yeah, and it's setting yourself up for success. It's making the environment more making them more nurturing towards whatever it is that you want to do, that really makes a difference. You know, if you want to either break an unhelpful habit or create a more helpful habit, you have to either encourage the behavior or discourage the behavior. And so you need to, you know, if you want to discourage the behavior, you need to make it really hard to do the thing, you know, and these are simple techniques that lots of people use, like not having junk food in the house. If you don't have it in the house, you're not going to eat it, you know, and then your teeth aren't going to go rotten. So, you know, you end up, you know, giving yourself this, nurturing the environment so that you are more likely to succeed. And I think that the same goes with these anti-goals, is like, you know, if you don't like this, then don't do this. And by not doing this, you're nurturing the environment so that something else can happen instead, something that's more positive or more helpful.
I think that's really lovely, actually, when you talk about nurturing the environment, because part of me was like, how do you not make anti-goals about deprivation? Like, how do you make it not about punishment? Like, I can't do this big, long list of things, but reward the good behavior. But it's actually about nurturing the kind of that, like, why am I sitting on the couch straight after dinner? Like, that's the action that's stopping me achieving what I want to achieve.
Yeah. And I think then, look, once you figure out that why, you can find a replacement behavior that is more suitable to you and your own personality, instead of this forced thing that is something that you think you should do. And, you know, like you were saying about these baby steps sort of goal approach, making it much more achievable, and especially for neurodiverse people, and especially for ADHDers who need that constant, immediate feedback. You know, we don't do delayed gratification. Our brain is like, you know what? No, we want the thing and we want it now. And so if you're doing like goals where you have to wait a week before you see some kind of benefit from this behavior you're having to torture yourself to do, it's not going to work. You know, it's just one of those things. It's like, well, I went on a it's this personal and embarrassing, but I won't describe it in detail, but I went on a medication once. And this medication, it's not like a life-saving medication, but the doctor said, like, you have to take it for 6 months before you see any change.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, are you serious? There is no way that my brain is going to do that. And I reckon, I'd go like a month, and then I would just be like, you know what? Nah, I'm not bothering.
What's the point? I'm
not bothering. Yeah. What's the point? Yeah, exactly. I just could not wait. And thankfully, I don't really need it, but I was like, I'm not doing that. It's just my brain can't do that. Yeah. So, we need that constant feedback. So, that feeling good about, doing that one small thing, and just little replacement behaviors, can make a big difference. Like, I've got a couple of examples. I sat down and I did this process myself with my own personal goals. And so I'm like, I'm not going to read them all out because, embarrassing. But there are a couple that I can I could talk through if you want. I
really want. But before we go into it, I want to give you one example that I heard today that I thought was very funny and related, and then I want us to go to a quick break. But I heard a podcast today talking about when he goes on a long trip with his kids, they buy a bag of, so they're little kids, like preschoolers, when they go on a trip, they buy a bag of the kids' favorite lollies, and like say every 10 minutes the kids get one. But if the kids fight in that 10 minutes, they throw the lollies out the window.
Oh,
like that one that they're meant to get that 10 minutes goes out the window.
Oh, just the one lolly. Okay.
Just the one lolly. So not the whole lot.
Okay.
But it's like, so you don't have to be, it's just in 10-minute blocks. Like, you're not writing off, you never get another lolly. But like, here's the behavior we're expecting. I just thought it was like, oh my gosh, that is gold.
Yeah, and the really constant reinforcement, like that short-term reinforcement, is actually good for kids and, us ADHDs with short attention spans.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I love it. That's fantastic.
Like, I wonder if it'll work with 14 and 16-year-olds or 20 and 22-year-olds. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Not much at all works with my adults now. It's sort of got to the point where I just get like a withering look. Thankfully, all the hard work that I put into when they were younger, it means I don't have to do as much, hassling now. But
wise choice. Yeah. Wise choice. Why don't we go to a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about Beck's experimenting with the anti-goals and how it worked for her. See you in a minute. Okay, Beck, hit us. Tell us. We want all the gory, juicy details. What was the anti-goals? What was the kind of hidden goal? Tell us all the things.
Okay. So one that I wrote a list of quite a few because if I'm not anything if optimistic and overly ambitious, whether or not I'm actually going to actually work hard at all of these at once, I don't think I will. I'm a big fan of just selecting a few things. But I sat down and went through the process. I had 3 weeks in Bali. I was doing nothing. So I'm like, I've got time to sit down and thrash out a 3 billion anti-goals. So let's use one as an example that's not too private, and I think some people might identify quite well with, and that's eating junk food when driving between clients. So I do a lot of driving, and I would do, between 1 and 3 client sessions a day. So I have to drive to the client, in between them, and home. And sometimes I'll actually come home in between them as well, if there's a big enough gap. And so I'm sort of always driving. And because I'm pretty disorganized naturally, I'm not very good at making sure I've made my lunch and doing all those kinds of things. So it'll get to, like 11:15 or something, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm starving because I forgot to eat, forgot to have breakfast, forgot to bring anything with me, forgot to eat. And I'll stop and get like a packet of chips from the servo or something to fill me up, which 1, costs a lot of money, and 2, is really bad for me at 11:15 in the morning. And it then means I don't eat a proper lunch. So then at 3:00, I stop and get another packet of chips, or that time like a, box of barbecue shapes or something like that, and a Coke to wake me up. And it's just not, it's not healthy. Or something like McDonald's or something, drive-through-y that I can do. So I thought I need to stop doing that. I really wanted to. So I think the I don't like for that one was eating so much junk when driving. So that's what I don't like. I don't like doing that. It makes me feel bad at the end of the day. I feel yuck. And so then I attached my I'm not going to statement, which was I'm not going to eat junk food when driving between clients. So then the next step is to say, well, how will I manage that?
Mm-hmm.
So how I'm going to manage that is I've written a little list. So one is eating breakfast. So I'm going to make sure I eat breakfast. I'm going to, even if it's a banana, I'm going to eat something for breakfast so that I don't get that late morning, craving for junk food. I'm going to make myself some easy takeaway snacks that are more healthy. So cut up some carrots and some cucumber or whatever and have them in the fridge so that I can take them with me. Or even another thing that I've done in the past, which has worked quite well, is just have nuts in the car that live in the car and like trail mix and stuff like that lives in the car. And so I can always snack on that. Nuts and dried fruits. Yeah, you can't forget it if it lives in the car. So there's that one there. And having the takeaway, the snacks that are healthy. And I also, and this is probably a little bit ambitious, but take my own lunch, or make my own lunch. And I've been doing pretty well at that this year, at taking my lunch. I know. And I've it's easier in summer than it is in winter because in summer I can just make a salad and they're really easy. I've always got salad ingredients in the fridge, so it takes me, no time at all. Winter might be a bit harder because I'll want to have soups and stuff. So I'll see how I go. But, well, it's, but maybe by the time I get to winter, the habit will be ingrained.
Yeah, or you could have like frozen cups of soup, like in those freezer to microwave containers, so that if you go home, that there's a quick meal. Like it's not that you've defrosted it, so then you have to have it and then it goes off. But it's like, I know at home there's a quick hot meal if I, anyway, I'm just adding to your how could I achieve this goal.
That is a really good idea. And that's a really good idea. So, so basically, and then the next step once you've decided what you're going to do is to actually start implementing the plans and implementing them now. So the next things, I will do, which I haven't done yet, is to buy some of that trail mix and some nuts and put them in the car. Yeah. I've already started to make the salads. I've already started to make sure that I've always got the right ingredients so that I can have the kind of breakfast that I need to have. I'm a big egg fan. So I often just have eggs for breakfast and that sort of will last. And it doesn't take long to cook eggs. So it's something that even if I'm in a real hurry, it doesn't take me long to throw an egg down and scull it.
Just raw. Just throws it down raw.
Actually, I have to say that's been tempting.
Really?
Well, efficiency
personified.
Well, because you throw them in smoothies, don't you? And I do remember thinking once, I wonder if I had to scull this egg, if it would fill me up enough. But I didn't actually follow through with that. But you can see that's where my brain takes me.
I'm right there with you. I love it.
Another thing I've been doing as well is boiling eggs. So making sure I've always got boiled eggs in the fridge. Because if I'm ready to leave the house and I'm already 5 minutes late, which is really, really common for me to already be 5 minutes late and realize I haven't eaten yet, I can grab the boiled egg, quickly smash it, and then eat it in the car. It's not going to be hard to do. So that will get me through too. So that's that to do. So that's the one example of the anti-goals. So I haven't got a goal to, never eat junk again or anything like that. It's just I don't want to do this anymore. And so therefore I'm going to stop doing these behaviours that I don't want to. And this is how I'm going to help nurture my environment so that I can stop those behaviours.
I think that there's going to be some people listening that are like, Beck, you have just rocked my world and you've unlocked a key for me to achieve my goals. And there'll definitely be other people that are like, you girls are just overcomplicating it, in which case do what works for you.
Yeah.
But
and that's the beauty of these things. We need lots of different ways to do things because we have different brains. We're all so different.
That's really good. One of the things I quite like doing is because my natural tendency is like, I'm like water where I'll find the quickest and easiest route to anything.
Oh my God.
So whatever the problem is, I will be like, how do I make it easier, more efficient, less strenuous, less stressful, less steps, whatever I can do to simplify and streamline something, I do. And so when I just want to stop doing something, I'll intentionally put harder things in place. So it might be so one of my kind of goals is like eat less chocolate. And so the way that I've achieved that is I can eat chocolate whenever I like. However, I'm never allowed to buy it from a service station, and I'm never allowed to order it in the weekly groceries. So that if I do want it bad enough, I have to get in the car and drive to the supermarket and make a separate trip. So there's no rule against that. But because I'm like, it's part laziness and part like that's inefficient, I'm putting things in place to make it hard for me not to achieve the goal. Like the anti-goals are I can go to the service station when I'm hungry, but I have to buy the trail mix, or I'll have to, you know, I've bought a banana from the service station because I'm like, I'm really hungry and I'm not allowed to buy a chocolate bar. And so it's stupid that I'm paying $2.50 for a banana, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, but I'm not going to have to. And that's exactly, and that's what you've done is, you know, how we talk about nurturing an environment to create a healthy habit. What we do to break an unhealthy habit is we make the environment uninhabitable.
Yeah, James Clear talks a lot about that, doesn't he?
Yes, I was just about to say that. It's in Atomic Habits. And I think also Charles Duhigg in The Power of Habit talks about the same thing as well. Is that, you know, if we need to put these obstacles up. And, you know, this is like a true message that I sent my girlfriends a couple of nights ago was we have no chocolate in the house. And it was like 8:30 at night and I wanted chocolate, you know, and so Bianca's replied and she's gone, me either. I'm currently scouring for like looking through the house for chocolate.
And I'm like, chocolate pellet things.
Yeah. And so she sort of said she had something which wasn't satisfying her. And then I said, I found peaches and cream. I'm going to have like 10 peaches with cream. And she came back, she goes, I've got fresh peaches, but no cream, you know, so we're like wailing about this fact that we're sort of trying to find. So I think that maybe having tinned peaches with cream might be slightly healthier than the chocolate, but at the same time, I actually think it's probably on a par. But I did the same thing. I was like, you know, you're all strong when you're in the supermarket. So I'm not going to need chocolate. And I'm not going to need chocolate. And then at 8:30 on Monday night, you're like, oh my God, I need chocolate. Like, why didn't I buy chocolate?
Yeah. I said to my kids, like, just wait till you get your peas. I'll be sending you down to the supermarket at 9:30 every night.
Yeah. But this is the thing, like we're doing the right thing for us to create these healthier habits and in not buying it in the groceries. So that's like the first step. It's also then torture for certain periods of time, but I survived. You know, I had my peaches and my cream and, you know, and I survived. And the thing is, I think the craving sort of reduces over time once you get out of that habit. So it's not always torture.
But, and you're reinforcing I can cope with this, with the circumstance and the scenario that I've set up. Like I can do this.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but I can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's quickly talk about this in relation to decluttering. One of the things that you mentioned before was about like a kitchen table that's full. And so the anti-goal may be I will always put my keys and wallet where they belong. So it's not I'm going to keep the table clear because that's this arbitrary that there's no action required in that. Like it's not specific. But the specific thing is I will always put my wallet and keys away. And then you might add to that and the kids will always put their school bags away. And then you look at the table at the end of a night and think, oh, there's a lot of paperwork. Okay, so I need to add on something about what we're going to do with the paperwork. Is that kind of the idea of building that anti-goal?
Yeah, sort of. But you need to focus a little bit, turn it around slightly to be like, I'm not going to do this. So I do not like not being able to eat at the dining table every night. Right. So that's the thing you want to change because you don't like it. It makes you uncomfortable. You think it affects the family negatively. So you really want to be able to eat at the dining table every night. Therefore, I'm not going to use the dining table as a dumping ground. And I'm going to achieve that by making sure everything is put in its home and put away instead of put down when I'm moving around that dining room, the dining table.
Yes,
so
great.
Your thing is I don't like not being able to use the dining table, therefore I'm not going to use it as a dumping ground. And in order to do that, I'm creating home for everything and putting things in their homes instead of on the table. So it's a similar action to what you're saying. It's I guess it's phrasing that turns it from a goal into an anti-goal.
And so talk us through what it would be like if I don't want to put the kids to bed every night and turn around and see a house covered in toys. How would you unpack that as an anti-goal?
Okay, so you would say, I don't like being presented with a messy living room when it's my time in the evenings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to have I'm not going to put the kids to bed until the living room is clear.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do that, I'm going to implement these particular strategies. So, you might implement a strategy of you have a cleanup song. So before they go to bed, you play the cleanup song. Everyone mucks in and does their cleaning up. A particular a game. So it might be to race each other, to put things away. You might race them. I mean, definitely don't pit the kids against each other. Maybe pit them against you. Like that works quite well. If the kids can team up against you, it's kind of like, okay, kids versus mum. Let's see who can put as many things away. So you can come up with your own strategy for that kind of thing. Or it could even be that when the kids are too young to do the cleanup themselves, that whoever's doing bedtime, the other person does a tidy up in the living room if there's two carers. And so that when the person who's just done the bedtime comes out, the living room's nice and clean and nurturing and relaxable.
I'm all for making up words. It's perfect.
So that's the type of thing, you come up with a strategy. So that's your how. So you need to come up with some strategies of, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to walk out to a mess. And in order to achieve that, I have to do a couple of these things and I have to figure out, what it is to do. So those would be some examples.
And there's some things you can work out on your own. There are things you can work out with people that you live with, or, when you're having coffee with your friend, go brainstorm with me. This is what I don't want. How do I get there? Or have a professional organizer or declutter coach come in. Like there's so many avenues. Like just listen to this podcast and take some notes, or reach out to Beck and go, hey, this is my scenario. What's the anti-goal? So I want to give you one more before we finish up.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the I don't like, or I don't want. So I don't want to have to get to, I'm trying to word it right. I don't want to feel like I have no clothes when I go to get dressed for work in the morning.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. So I don't like not having anything to wear or feeling like I have nothing to wear in the morning. Yep. So that's your good I don't like statement. Therefore, I'm not going to is the next statement.
Right.
So therefore, I'm not going to have this could be a couple of different words, but some ideas are, I'm not going to have anything in my wardrobe that doesn't fit me.
Brilliant.
Or I'm not going to have anything in my wardrobe that isn't one of my colors. Or I'm not going to have anything in my wardrobe that I haven't worn in the last year. Or I'm not going to have anything in my wardrobe that doesn't make me feel absolutely amazing in it.
That's excellent.
So there's a few different statements.
You can also add things like even go that level deeper and go, okay, well, that's what's in the wardrobe, but why am I feeling? So I'm not going to drop my clothes on the floor after I finish wearing them, because then when you go to the wardrobe, you can't find what you're looking for because it's actually on the wardrobe. Or I think that,
Oh, you can extend this a long way, because when it comes to wardrobes, wardrobes is quite a big topic. I love talking wardrobes and intentional wardrobes and all that kind of stuff. And so, you could also say, I'm not going to buy clothes unless something's fallen apart and I'm replacing it. So you can even go as extreme as that. You could even try an experiment of a no-buy year or 6 months or something like that, of like, I'm not going to buy any new clothes for a year until my wardrobe is more under control. So this is where your I'm not going to is, I'm not going to overfill my wardrobe with seasonal stuff that was made by a 7-year-old in Bangladesh in awful conditions, and it's just going to go to landfill when I finish with it.
I'm going to wear
fall
it
apart in 3 weeks.
Exactly.
All that stuff. So you can make a whole lot of those statements, and you can go quite broadly, and I'm not going to keep sizes that are more than 2 above or 2 below me, because that's another thing that some people do as well. Obviously, there are definitely some people who need to do that because they fluctuate quite dramatically. And if you're one of those people, it's a waste of money to get rid of all of those sizes all the time. But you would still make some boundaries, and you would say, well, that just means that because I've only got 1 wardrobe, but I've got 4 sizes, that just means I have to have less of every size, and that's okay. So you just end up having less of every size. So there's so many different ways that you can make your wardrobe work better for you. So there's loads of different I'm not going to's for that one. And then lots of different hows. I'm only going to shop with a list. I'm only going to charity shop, for example, or I'm only going to make my own clothes. I'm only going to replace items. I'm only going to buy certain fabrics, So like I've been trying, and whenever I talk about this, my kids give me a bit of a side eye because they know I'm not 100% sticking to it. But I'm trying to buy natural fibers only these days. So that the last few things prior to my little phase in Bali where I bought like 3 rayon skirts, apart from that, I've only bought linen and cotton recently of the items that I've been buying.
Do you count bamboo as natural? Because I would wear just bamboo 24/7 if I could.
I think that you'd have to look it up because I think it depends on how it's processed.
Right.
But for me, the criteria is if it breaks down in the ocean.
Okay.
Rather than becoming little bits of plastic to go in the fish. So I think you would have a look, and depending on, the bamboo might have lycra in it. Or something like that. But you could definitely do that once you figured out, and this is the thing, there's no wrong or right way or perfect way to be more sustainable or whatever.
There's just you putting some guardrails around it.
Exactly. Small efforts make a huge difference. So, if you decide that, okay, well, I can't just do linen because linen sucks and I hate wearing it. But I'm going to try and do just bamboo and cotton. But I'm going to, do a bit of research and see if that's actually going to meet my criteria for, sustainable or whatever it is that you're trying to be and do. There are some people who don't necessarily go for natural fibers, but they make sure that they buy from companies that have transparent labor practices.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're worried about the people that actually make the clothes a little bit more than they are the environment or whatever. So everyone's got their own thing that they're interested in and that they're passionate about. So you can focus on whatever you want. So you could do that. So bamboo's lovely.
Oh my gosh. I will only buy bamboo pajamas, and they're just the best. I just want bamboo everything in my life. We have bamboo sheets, everything, please, in bamboo.
Well, I think so. So I think I think I would put bamboo on my list as well, but I haven't actually done the research on that. But I think as long as it doesn't break down into little bits of plastic, I'm on board.
Yeah, I love it. And I think what you're saying too is that once you break down that anti-goal and what are the steps that you're going to take, you get to actually move into using your values and what's important to you to achieve that. Like I think there's actually a really great freedom in this anti-goal because you get to determine the way rather than I want a decluttered house and it just has to be I get a skip and throw everything in it. It's like, okay, well, what are some other ways that I can achieve that goal?
Yeah, exactly. And there are so many ways to change what isn't working for you in your life. And it doesn't have to be the same way everyone else is doing it. And that's why, the anti-goals are so good. It's because they do give you that freedom because it is like naturally aligned to your values because you're starting off at a point of, I don't like this in my life. I don't like, it might be, I don't like working 12 hours a day. I don't like only seeing the kids on weekends. I don't like always feeling sick and tired. I don't like, there's so many things that we can look at our life and go, do you know what? I really don't like this and I want to change it. I had a rare social outing in January, and I actually got together with a whole group of people I haven't seen for ages. And I was talking to this one guy about how I'd really retreated in the past few years and how I wasn't socializing as much in person anymore. I'm still constantly on Messenger chatting with people and chatting with my friends and stuff. And I do see a couple of friends in person, but I don't broadly socialize in person as much. And I sort of said, I've really retreated. And he said, I've done the opposite. He said, I'm getting out there. I'm out there like all the time. And I thought about it later and I thought, I actually don't like not the way I have evolved into that. And I think it sort of came out of COVID and all of that. And it's not like I'm not miserable or anything like that. I sort of think I actually am not 100% comfortable with where I've ended up. And so, I can then look at this and go, well, that could be one of my anti-goals is I don't want to find excuses to stay at home. and
I don't want
retreat.
to avoid
I don't want
initiating social activities.
That's right. I don't want to sort of just take the easy way out. And, and I mean, I love pottering about with my plants all day. It's like a perfect day.
That's what I did all afternoon.
Pottering is my favorite thing to do. It's my favorite thing to do. And you can actually be quite productive pottering. It might not be the things you're meant to be doing, but, you will get some things done.
Us ADHDers are pretty good at that.
Pottering's the best. So I thought that, and that would be then, so if you find that you have this feeling of discomfort about something, that could turn into an anti-goal. So I could say, I don't want to make excuses or have every weekend home by myself pottering. I want to, and so how am I going to change that? Well, I'm going to do this, and this. And so I will come up with some ideas for whatever those things are. But I just realized I didn't write that on my goals list. Or my anti-goals list.
The good news is you're allowed to add to it.
Well, this is the thing. I'm the boss. I can make it whatever I want. But, so I've got things about, my anti-goals are around my earning goals, my wasting time traveling, ignoring my physical fitness, being burnt out. So, some of the work that I do is quite intense. And so I can burn out easily. So I've sort of put some anti-goals in place where I've got some actions to take that will prevent some burnout. I've got the junk food one, which you talked about. I've got like addressing my sleep, getting behind on admin, which
good luck.
I'm like, I know. Good luck.
Outsource that one, baby.
And wasting time when I'm studying by constantly darting off and finding something else to do. I just need a coffee. I just need a cookie. I'll just see, I've got to message Jane. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. All the things that I need to. So they're the kinds of goals the kinds of anti-goals that I've looked at. I've gone, these are the things that I do or things that happen in my life that I'm not 100% on board with. So I wouldn't mind seeing if I can change them. So that's basically the way you look at it.
So good, Beck. I really like your creative mind. I think that's a superpower to be able to look at a situation and go, let's change the angle. Let's change the angle again. Let's change the angle again. Because it's not about what's the word?
Homogenization.
Thank you. Homogenization.
Homogenization, yeah.
Let's go with that. People know what we mean.
Yes.
It's actually about going how do I work? How do I tick? What's going to work? What isn't going to work? And then having the tools. And that's what we want to do. It's not about prescribing anything. It's about going, hey, try this. Have you heard of anti-goals? Yeah. Try this. I love it. Yeah. I love it.
And if you don't like it all, then you pick the bits out that you do like and you make it up your own way. It's like my husband kind of teases me because I'm a bit of a flexitarian. So I'm like, well, I don't really like to eat meat. But then anytime he sees me eating meat, he's like, why are you eating meat? I'm like, because I'm not a vegan. And I'm choosing my own version. I'm a Rebecca. This is me and this is how I do it. And I have all these rules in my head, but they're only my rules and I don't expect anyone else to live by them. And I don't expect anyone to understand them. And I think it's the same with this as well, is these anti-goals. It's like, okay, you might have some really stupid, weird goals according to other people, or anti-goals or methods or ideas, but if they work for you, then go for it.
So good. Listeners, I reckon that there'll be some of you just hot on your keyboards, ready to jump into the Facebook community and go, oh my goodness, this is going to be my anti-goal. This is how I'm going to do it in decluttering. This is how I'm going to do it in other areas of my life. So please come over and let us know. Beck and I would love to be able to just see what's resonated with you, how you're going to implement it. Beck, is there any, tell us where people can find you online.
At rebeccamezzino.com.au or clearspace.net.au.
Awesome. I'm going to put those links in the show notes, listeners. Thank you, Beck.
No worries.
I feel like we could just keep going all night, but for the sake of our listeners, we will not. But I look forward to speaking to you all next week. And as I said, come over and let us know what you took out of it, what you're going to implement, and just encourage other people as they jump in and do that as well. Have an amazing week, and I will see you next time. Bye. I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land this podcast is recorded on. I would also like to pay respects to their elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love you to rate and review the show on your podcast app. That will help others to find the Art of Decluttering podcast as well. If you'd like any more information, you can visit theartofdecluttering.com.au, and I would love to see you in my Facebook group. Just search the Art of Decluttering community on Facebook and join today. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day and enjoy the freedom.